In this final segment, we'll consider some objections to Epicurus's ethics and to his theory of human happiness. The first objection has to do with his views on friendship. One of the appealing things about Epicurus's account of human happiness is that he says that friendship is important to happiness, and most of us, I think, would agree with that. However, because of his egoistic hedonism, in his view, the only reason why we should pursue friendship is because it will lead to pleasure for oneself and avoidance of pain, perhaps. One might think that a true friend is someone who acts according to the interests of his or her friend. If that's what true friendship is, then on that view, true friendship would be impossible, according to Epicurus. Because of his psychological hedonism, he thinks that we are always seeking our own pleasure or the avoidance of our own pain. And so even the most noble, most ideal friendship would just really amount to that. In a sense, each of the friends are just using each other as a tool. This seems a real problem for Epicurus's views. I don't think it follows from this objection that he has an unappealing account of friendship that his view about human happiness is false. Let's move on to attack it more directly. Consider the people on the left. This is a photograph from 1940 of a family of homesteaders, some, basically sort of pioneer farming family in New Mexico. So we have a mom and dad, 5 kids. They look like they're poor. They have simple clothes. They look like they're living in some very rudimentary sort of housing. Just think about what kind of life those people have. Let's focus on the parents, on the mom and the dad. There are a lot of pleasures. Their children are delightful. There's the pleasures of marriage and sex, the pleasure of working and enjoying the fruits of one's labors. There's also a lot of pains. Children can be a pain in the butt. Marriage can be a pain. Farming can be a pain when the weather's bad. But think about how these people might look back at their lives toward the end of their lives, say in their 80s or 90s. They might very well be very satisfied with their life. And if you say to them, don't you wish you had just dropped out, lived in a commune, avoided sex, marriage, and children, and just pursued philosophy and mental tranquility, don't you think that would have been better? They probably would look at you like you were crazy. They would say, I've made my mistakes, I could have done things better, but the things I would have missed out on if I had joined the garden commune. Contrast the mom and dad here with the person on the right. This is a Buddha statue, but I think it communicates the value on ataraxia or peace of mind. This is a person, let's say, who became a disciple of Epicurus at a fairly young age, maybe as a high schooler, a teenager. They lay aside pursuit of politics, power, money, sex, and any kind of material luxuries. Really, even pursuit of a career is something that they have laid aside. It's natural but unnecessary, unnecessary for happiness, comfort, or life. They've traded all this in for some non-sexual friendships with like-minded disciples. They enjoy hanging out and being together. They form good memories that way. They help each other to think in ways which tend to avoid pain and lead to mental tranquility. And let's suppose this person dies at the age of 80 or 90. Which life would you rather have? That's one question. I would, without hesitation, take my chances with the other sort of life, despite all the risks and problems that entails. There's an objection, I think, here to Epicurus's theory. Let's suppose that the people on the left really did pretty well. They had quite a lot of different kinds of pleasures. They had some pains too, but no more than is sort of usual in human life. One might think that just based on pleasure alone that the farmers have a better life. And the question is, how can Epicurus defend on purely hedonistic grounds his claim that peace of mind is the best form of pleasure? Let us grant that the person on the right has more peace of mind than the farmers. It's not clear that peace of mind really is a pleasure at all, rather than just lack of pleasure or pain of any sort. But let's grant even that peace of mind is a pleasure. It's not clear that the person on the right has the more pleasant life, even though they have this unique kind of pleasure. How do we know that on the whole the farmer's life is not more pleasant? If one person has a handful of American dollars and another person has a handful of euros, it may be that euros are worth more than dollars, but depending on what the numbers are, the person with the dollars may have more money in their hand. To summarize then, even if Epicurus is right about his hedonism, it's not clear that his recommended sort of life is the best life. And if you believe that there are intrinsically valuable things other than pleasure, then you're probably going to agree with me that the farmer's life is the better life. Or at least it could be. It's just not clear why the sort of lifestyle that Epicurus recommends would be better than the lives that most of us have. Or at least that people can have without going to all the lengths of deprivation that one has to go to be a member of the commune. I still think that Aristotle's objection to hedonism of any kind stands. I think Aristotle has a devastating objection to the view that a happy life is a pleasant life. It seems that being well off or being happy just can't be a function of your state of mind alone. We all seem to assume this when judging about who has a happy life and who does not have a happy life. Go back to my example of getting hit in the head with a baseball bat. Suppose this caused you pleasure. Or suppose it caused you to have peace of mind. Bonk you on the head and you immediately adopt that sort of face that one finds on classical Buddha statues where, according to Epicurus, you're enjoying the highest kind of pleasure. If happiness just is a life of ataraxia, then getting bonked in the head like this would make you happy, would make you well off. The objection is you wouldn't be well off at all. That would be a terrible life as a whole, even though it would be very pleasant in a certain way. And I would argue that Aristotle's right, that a happy life has to be a life of activity. Epicurus seems to assume that a person with ataraxia will involve themselves in a certain amount of activity, but it's very circumscribed, it's very limited activity. Remember, because it excludes sex, politics, close family attachments, and things like that. In my view, then, Aristotle would win a philosophical smackdown with Epicurus on the topic of human happiness. To summarize, there's something really amazing about Epicureanism as a system. It's all, at least at first glance, kind of neat and tidy, and there's something very appealing about it. And as I mentioned, there are people who hold similar views today. I tend to think, though, that when you get deeply into the system, you find that it has some crucial problems with its fundamental claims. Of course, you have to philosophize for yourself. What do you think?